Mommy. My name is Amanda, and today I was going to be showing you how I make my mashed potatoes. So keep watching. So before we actually get cooking, I was actually going to show you what ingredients that I'm going to use to make my mashed potatoes. So to begin with, of course, we need, some mashed potatoes, which I got right here. And then we're also going to need a couple of other things. So for one, I actually added sour cream to mine, and I actually have 2 just in case I need a little more. And then I'm also going to be adding some bacon, which as you see I've already cut up right here, and I'm going to have to cook this. And then I'll also be needing some butter as well as some cheese, which as you see I've already shredded. You're also going to be needing, of course, some salt and pepper. And just to show you what kind of cheese and bacon I bought, I actually just got this one right here from HEB, the Colby and Monterey Jack, like I said, from HEB. So I actually used more than this. This is just how much I used to finish that bowl. And for my bacon, I actually got this at HEB as well, and it is the HEB original bacon. As you see here, I use about half of it whenever I make this. Sometimes I do go ahead and get the thick cut bacon, just because that is going to be a thicker bacon when it gets mushed all the way with your mashed potatoes. So let's continue on, and I'm actually going to go to the stove right now and start cooking this bacon. Okay, so back to the bacon. We're first getting started. I have my pan right here. My fire is a little close medium towards the low, so I'm actually going to add a very little bit of oil, and by little bit I actually mean the top. So it is a very truly little bit of oil that I'm adding into my pan, and it's just to make it a little easier for the bacon to cook. So I'm going to let this warm up a little bit, and you're going to know that it's warmed up when the oil starts having that somewhat of a poppy noise. And as you see here, you want to pick up your pan and make sure that your oil goes all around your pan until it's ready. One good trick that I know to do to know if my oil is ready is just by getting a little bit of water in my hand, doing this, and if it sizzles, that means that your water is ready. So let me do that real quick. So as you see here, I just wet my hand. Water is not fully ready yet. It did give a little bubbles, but not as much. I do see it bubbling a little more now. And now it is giving me that fizzling. So I'm actually going to add in my bacon now. And so you can hear the noise that it makes to let you know that it is cooking your bacon. I'm actually going to use this wooden spoon right here. That's how I'm going to use to mix this up. And so go ahead and just cook your bacon until all of it is done. And make sure that you have a different bowl ready for this bacon when it's done. You do not want to put it back in the bowl to have your raw bacon in it. You want to make sure you use a clean bowl, and that's with any time you cook anything. You always want to make sure you put it in a clean bowl. Okay, so now that your bacon is done, I actually put mine in this bowl right here, so I'm just going to set it aside. That way, whenever I'm ready to mix it with my mashed potatoes, it's good to go. So mentioning about mashed potatoes, I actually have my pot right here. And you're going to want to make sure that you actually have cold water already in there. So that way, whenever you cut up your potato, and it's in the little, the squares or rectangles, whatever shape it is, whenever you cut it, you put it in the water. That way, it doesn't turn black. Because as many people know, when you leave potatoes out after, skinning them and cutting them, they will start changing colors on you, and you don't want that. So you want to have your pot right here ready with cold water in it, and make sure you have another bowl like this right here, or some kind of bowl. That way, whenever you are peeling your potatoes or you have any other type of trash, it's good to have a trash bowl to put it into instead of having to continually just go back and forth to your trash can. That way you have a bowl and you can just put everything in there. So actually I have my peeler right here. I have my sharp knife right here. And I have my potatoes. So I'm actually going to start peeling my potatoes and cutting them up for the bowl, for the pot, I'm sorry. And I'm actually only going to be doing about, let's say, these are pretty good sized potatoes. So probably about six potatoes, because I really don't, I'm not feeding an army over here. I only have a family of 4, so I don't need that much mashed potato. Even although I do, when I cook, I do make sure I pack extra for my husband's lunch the next day. I don't need that much potato. So like I said, you know, you're going to want your bowl to put your peelings in, because you're going to have to start peeling your potatoes, cutting them up, and once you cut them up, you want to make sure you put them in your pan. So let's get going. As you see here, I actually am using a cutting board underneath. They're holding my potatoes, and I'm putting these pieces on here, the peelings, because you don't want to be putting them on your counter. That way, even though, yes, you're going to clean your counter when you're done cooking, you don't want to be putting your food, whether it is raw meat or like this, potatoes or anything like that, you don't want to be putting it on your counter, because when you really think about it, so much stuff goes on your counter, and you wouldn't want to contaminate your food by putting your food on your counter as well. So like I said, you're going to continue peeling, and I know some people actually do not like their mashed potatoes with the peel off of it. I particularly do. I do not like peel on my potato, so I always will peel my potatoes, and that's what my kids are used to. So that is just what I do for my family. If you do not like your potatoes like that, then you do not have to do that. So what I do when I cut my potatoes is I actually cut it in half first, and I know I'm not a chef. I do not hold the knife the way my husband wishes I should. I know holding it like this is incorrect. You are actually supposed to hold it like this when cutting, but I cannot cut good like that, so I actually do hold it like this. So like I said, I do know that's incorrect, but that is just simply how I hold the knife when I cut. So to continue on, I cut it in half, then I cut that half into another half, and then from there I would just cut it up and make little squares with my potatoes, and I would just keep doing this with all my potatoes until they are all done. So like I said, they're like this size, and I'm just going to put all of them into my pot. So if you are cooking mashed potatoes right now like I am, make sure you just continue doing this until all your potatoes are done. And then after that, you're going to want to actually put them on your stove. And you want to make sure whenever you put them on your stove, I usually put my fire in the middle of high and medium, because I don't want to be sitting there all day long as my potatoes are getting softened to mash them up. So I actually do that whenever I am making mashed potatoes. I don't know how much time you have on your hands to do that, but I myself do. And as you saw, whenever I got done with the knife, I did put it back aside, away from me. That way I don't accidentally, cut my hand, or, accidentally cut just any part of my finger or whatsoever whenever I'm cooking. Always make sure to put it back away from me. And I actually do have a towel that I put it on. Again, like I said, you don't want to put anything just right on your counter, just simply because of, like I said, you know what you put on your counter, no matter how much you clean your counter, if you have kids, pets, whatever, I mean, even us as women, our hair goes everywhere. Whether we're cooking, driving, cleaning our house, doesn't matter what we're doing, our hair goes everywhere. Trust me, I know my husband complains all the time, because we are a family that has myself and our 2 daughters, and we also have 2 dogs and a cat, so our hair is everywhere no matter how much I clean, sweep, whatever, the house. So just, for a reference, like I said, you always want to make sure that you have some kind of cover, whether it's you're using a cutting board or you're putting your utensils down, whether it's, this right here, the pillar or your knife, whichever you're using, you want to make sure that you put it down on something other than just your counter for contamination. That way you do not, you know, get it on there. And when you have your bowl for your trash, you want to make sure you're paying attention, because I know many times when I have not been fully paying attention, instead of putting my trash in the trash bowl, I've accidentally put it in the actual pot that I am putting stuff in. So you want to make sure, I know some people, because of that, they actually do not put their trash bowl by the pot that they are using. That way they do not accidentally do that. They will sometimes put on the opposite end. That way they do not get confused. So you're just going to continue doing this until all your potatoes are cut, and I will be right back with you. So now that your mashed potatoes are finally softened, I know it seems like it can take a lifetime. You actually want to put them, either you can put them back in the pot that they were steaming, that they were cooking in, or you can put them in a separate bowl, as I have done. And if you cannot see the smoke, not even the smoke, I guess it's like fog almost, the white clouds coming out of the potatoes, you are missing a sight. So to actually mash these up, I'm actually going to be using my hand blender right here. I know whenever sometimes I make this, I will pull out my KitchenAid and put them in there and mix it up, but truthfully, I just did not feel like doing that this time. So I'm going to get this, and I know it is going to be a little loud, so you might want to turn the volume down on this part, because I do need to mix up these potatoes right here. So if you're cooking with me, you won't mind the noise, because you'll be listening to the same noise in your home. So when your mashed potatoes are already all done, you're going to want to use a spatula, as in I have right here, just to pull them out of this. It's kind of like when you're making cake, you know, you want to make sure all the batter, but in this sense, it's all your potatoes are out of this. So instead, you can do what I'm doing and just knock it out on the bowl. Or you can use the spatula as well to take it out. So once all your potatoes are mashed, technically at this point, excuse that mashed potato, it just decided to fly. They're going to look like this, you know, all mashed. So this is the fun part. This is when you get to start adding all your other ingredients inside of it. So to begin with, I'm actually going to be adding in the sour cream first. And truthfully, I kind of just eyeball this. I do not have a set amount. So this is all, you know, pretty much what you're looking for is the creaminess of your potatoes. Sour cream with the mixture of butter does give it this other taste. It all does depend how much of it you put in. If you are not a huge sour cream fan, then you would only want to put a little bit of it in. But if you do like sour cream, you can put in more than that. I know we do like sour cream in my family, so there was a little bit left in that first container I showed you. This is a brand new one. So I'm actually going to take this whopping one right here and add that in, and that should be enough. So I do not want to use this spatula now in my butter, since I've already used it in the sour cream. So I have a different spatula right here, and I'm going to get some butter now and put that into my mashed potatoes. Like I said, at this point, what we're doing is just adding all of our ingredients in. This is just however much you and your family like. I know, like I said, I do not have a set amount. I kind of always just eyeball it and see how much I think would be good for my family. So what I'm going to do is actually get all this butter off and sour cream off, and I'm going to fold it into the mashed potatoes. I'm going to get this other one right here. And like I said, so I'm going to fold it in. So kind of like I said, you know, whenever you're baking, you don't want to over mix something. And in this sense, it's the same thing. You do not want to over mix your potatoes because they will not look pretty. And no one's going to want to eat something that doesn't look pretty. You know, we all kind of have somewhat of a complex when we're really tiny. You know, we don't want to eat things that don't look good. So what I'm doing right here is just, like I said, you know, folding it in and mixing everything together. And I will show you in a minute. At this point, you're going to want to make sure when you're mixing that you do get all your butter properly mixed in. I know what some people like to do is actually melt their butter before they put it into here, but I like with the fact that these potatoes do have the heat still because they did just come from the stove, that they will do a good job on melting the butter. So after this, as you see here, you know it is nice and mixed together. So I'm going to add in one of my kids' favorite, which is the bacon. So I'm just going to pour that in there. And I'm going to add the cheese. My family is big, humongous cheese lovers. So this whole bowl right here that is filled with cheese now has no cheese because all that cheese is now in this pot. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mix everything in. And I do have salt and pepper put to the side. And what I like to do with that is I do add a little bit of salt and pepper into my food when I'm making it. But I usually tend to instead let people put as much salt and pepper as they like, because you can always add more. You can never take away. That is one thing I know that my husband says all the time. And he is a chef, so he always gives me really good advice that I like sharing with y'all. So like I said, you're going to fold this in until everything is nice and mixed. And when you get done, your mashed potatoes should look like this. I know right now it does not look that pretty, but I promise if you love bacon and cheese and just mashed potatoes, you are going to love this. So give me a minute. Let me actually put it in a prettier bowl that's not this bowl. That way I can serve it to my family, and I will be right back. So as you see here, the mashed potatoes is completed. You can see little peaks of the bacon and the cheese mixed in here. So hopefully when you make it for your family, they all enjoy it as well. I love being able to share this with you, this recipe. It is a nice and creamy potato. Like I said, has a lot of flavor. And if you'd like to add more salt and pepper to yours when you serve it, or you can do it now before serving, it's all just a personal preference, then feel free to. So I'll see you next time.